And it is 10 o'clock, and it's Lancaster Woodturners Weekly Coffee Hour number 190 on February 22nd, 2024. My name's John Kelsey. I'll be moderator this morning. Oh, let me see. I had some announcements to make and some observations before we start going around the screen. My first announcement is on the 27th, the Lancaster Club is going to have a Zoom meeting to look at all the pictures together that of work people are offering up to display at the Amtrak station. So those of you who are in Lancaster, I sent out a video link yesterday to an 8-minute video that shows all of the work that was proposed. It's a fantastic collection. It's really a fun little video. I laid on a soundtrack that I had from another project just to give it some sound and just let the PDF run 5 seconds per picture. There's 110 pages in it. So very good showing from 29 club members. On the 27th, we're going to select one piece from each. And then we're going to work with those and the rest of the offered set and see what kind of display we can map out on a mock-up of the actual train station stuff. So it's we got a good process here, and it's going to be kind of fun, and we want to involve other people to whatever extent they want to be involved. Then after that, on March the 5th, is a club meeting in New Holland. Doug will be doing the demo of his teeny weeny weed pot. And then on the 9th is Open Shop, also in New Holland. So there's 3 Lancaster events coming up. Any other club news that anybody else wants to put out here? Ken?
Yeah, we had our second bull turning class last night, and we were successful again. We get 100% on our bull turners. They were all able to do it. It was a 2-session of 2.5 to 3 hours each session, and all we used was a bowl gouge, and we did use a little bit of a skew just to get the dovetail correct on the bottom, but it worked out real well. We had one that had a terrible piece of poplar, and we were able to make some adjustments, and he was successful and very happy with his end result. So we're real happy with what happened.
Oh, good to hear that. Anybody else? Okay, and on a personal note, I moved into this house 10 years ago, and I just kind of put the shop down, and it was the first thing I moved in because I knew I'd need the shop to work on the house. And then I've done jiggling things around over time, but I never really took a look and said, "Oh, what's the best way to use this space?" And then I started this being short out of ideas for the moment of what I want to turn. I said, let's have a pause here and rejigger the shop and put in proper dust collection. So I bought a new dust collector and a whole lot of piping and hoses that I was going to use to lay it out to the existing shop. And then Ziegler came over and helped me understand that, wait a minute, the problem here is I don't need no 30-foot runs from the dust machine and all that stuff. I need to rearrange the shop so the machinery that needs to have the dust collected is all near the collector. So that was a revelation. So having bought a whole lot of stuff for the first plan, I've used half of it in connecting everything and setting everything up. And I now have an old single-stage dust collector and a whole lot of fittings and hoses to offer up to anybody who would like to come and get them. I guess the price will be a donation to the club and some small amount, but I really just want this stuff to go away to somebody who can use it. I got it for almost nothing from Angelo more than 10 years ago, so it's a beat but still useful chip collector. I wouldn't call it a dust collector because I think the filter doesn't filter really too well anymore, and I think it's got leaks everywhere. So anyway, that's my dust story, and I'm sticking to it. Great opportunity it turned out to reorganize the shop and make some sense out of it. And now the machine is way over in the corner. I can actually have it on and hear the radio in the other direction. So that's kind of good. So that's my report for this morning. Anybody got anything they'd like to say about the Amtrak collection? I see that 40 or so, 50 people have looked at the video. Any of you guys see the video? Did you enjoy it?
Fantastic collection of turnings.
I was really impressed.
I agree, John. I thought it was great. Some really nice work in there.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a hell of a good display. It's going to be fun to put it together now and make it coherent. We don't want to just throw a bunch of stuff in a case. We want to try and have some groupings that make sense and see a range of work and figure out some short signage, short explanations that people can look at. So, okay,
I'll be
let's.
sending you. I'll be sending you some information, but a couple of other ideas I had. You talked about having a few wood chips and maybe a couple of tools. I would like to suggest possibly a couple photographs. If you could get a photograph with an adult showing a child, and certainly we would like to have maybe a female represented behind the lathe. I think those ideas. I'll be sending you that information. Thanks for everything you're doing. God bless you.
Be sure you show up on the 27th on the Zoom call and join us and bring one of your ideas to the conversation.
Well, I can't do that. My daughter got us tickets to AMC, so but I'll get you all the information. Thanks again for everything.
You get it to me, then I'll read it and talk them to it. Okay. Anybody else? I want to thank everybody who's participating in this. Is 29. That's a really good showing. And as anybody who's seen the video has said, it really it's making a great collection. So we're gonna have a hard time paring down to what we can fit in those cases. Okay, before we go to the guys with the hands up, I got a communication from Rich Colvin's got his hand up. Okay, I'm gonna start with Rich. Haven't heard from him in a long time. What do you want to show us, Rich?
So I was doing some buttons that I'm going to be doing a collaboration with a guy who does Kumiko. And so these are, how do I share my screen? These are for ones that I did with an eccentric cutting frame, and they really came out nice. I can't find the button to share my screen. Oh, here it is. So this one is where the inner circles, and this actual piece is 1 1/4 inches in diameter. So the mistake that I have here is not prevalent, but they fundamentally meet in the middle, and it gives a really nice design. This is on the end of a piece of wood. And
what's the apparatus that does that? Do you have a picture of that?
Yeah, I can bring it up. It's an eccentric cutting frame.
Okay.
And it just drills in circles in the end, eccentrically. This one was where I skipped every 5th one to give it a different look. But also the circles are a little smaller, and that's why you end up with that remnant in the middle, which is sometimes nice from an artistic perspective.
Is that a little rotating cutter, or is it an engraver or a scraper? What is doing it?
Let me show you. Hang on. It is.
Oh, I see.
Wrong one. I'm sorry.
I see it up there. Eccentric cutting frame. Ellipse cutting frame.
It's an eccentric cutting frame, is what it is. So that's going to come up in a minute.
At the top of your screen, it had it there in the list for it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then this is the same thing, but now the circles are greater than the radius of the piece. And so each circle comes to the other side of this center, and it leaves a very much different design still. So that's a kind of neat thing. The other piece that I wanted to show, though, is there was a guy named Frank Dorian who was the editor of the newsletter for OTI for many, many years and has done a lot. And so when he retired from the job when he turned 80, we had a young person who he had mentored create a piece for him to thank him for his work. And this is the piece that was made for him. And while it's beautiful just looking at it, what's even more amazing is that it's a tool holder. And these are a threaded cap. So this is the eccentric cutting frame. It spins around in circles.
So does that cutter rotate also, or is it a scraper or a graver?
It just scrapes. I mean, well, it cuts, but it's cutting with just a scraping action.
So it's a little fly cutter.
Yeah, but it's got a point on in the end, like shown here, and you can change the angle of the point to achieve different objectives if you want.
So you've got a way of driving that. Oh, I see. It's driven from the lathe center, or what? How is it driven?
It's driven by a drilling spindle.
That's in the headstock or in the tool?
It's in the tool post.
In the tool post, okay.
And I don't have a picture of one here. Oh yeah, here's one. Yeah, so this is held in a tool post, and that spinning piece is held here in the end. And on this end, we have a belt that drives it.
Okay. Uh-huh.
Or you can have one that has a motor built in. These are less common though, because they shake a little too much.
Shake a little too much. Okay, yeah. Uh-huh. Okay.
But this was just a beautiful piece this guy made for Franken. There's another picture where he actually engraved it by hand on the bottom, and the work he did on the bottom also. So all of this was done on a Rose engine.
Beautiful work.
Lace work on the bottom. And then that's just another view of it. But it's amazing work that can be done on Rose engines.
Yeah, indeed. Anybody else? Questions, comments? Rich is a genuine expert in this. Even though he never shows his face.
My internet circuit's pretty slow, and so you can either hear me or see me. You can't do both.
Okay. Thank you very much, Rich. That's very interesting. I want to find out more of that. I can't help thinking there's got to be an easier way of doing it, but I don't know what it is. So,
If you find one, please let us know.
yeah, I will. Okay, I got to mute this guy. Okay. Okay. Jerry Snelson, what are you going to do today?
I'd like to share screen.
Go for it.
Can you see that?
You sure can.
These are coachmen playing cards on their break, and they're all very honest, as you can see. Each one has a spare ace, adding up to about 6 aces in the deck. and they're all incense burners. He lifts off here where at the waistline, and the others lift out completely. And it's built on a low cigar box, an Arturo Fuente cigar box.
Do they all puff smoke out their mouths or somewhere else?
Yep. Yes, that right beside those cigars.
Yeah. What do you do with these?
Well, right now they're sitting around, and we're talking about having to get some kind of a barrister's bookcase or something. Otherwise, just being dusted all the time. And getting sort of planning a show that I haven't talked to my wife about yet, but I want to call it Retired. And she's an incredible quilter, and I make these things. And as you know, the electric cigar box guitars and lap dulcimers and things like that. That we've had several art gallery exhibits, but not with our wood turnings. Usually with the puppets.
I think that I think you're heading for a gallery exhibition of these things. That's for sure.
Well, thank you. Well, that's all I want to show.
Okay, well, that's a great one. Thanks very much. Questions for Jerry?
Thank you.
Jerry, I assume the cards are scaled, right? They're not full-size cards.
No, that would make really big turnings, wouldn't it? Yeah, they're 1.5 inches. I just, as I said to the group earlier, I just went to my local store called Amazon and typed in miniature playing cards, and it's hard to find the right size, but they had a gazillion choices, either much too large or much too small. And I just took a chance on those. And when they came, I got 20 complete decks. So if you know of anybody who needs a small hand of cards, let me know, and I'll send them a deck.
Yeah,
I thought you had to make. I thought you had to make them. So Amazon sells miniature cards.
Amazon sells everything.
Yep.
You just, yep.
Okay. Uh, very fabulous stuff. John,
Oh, thanks.
John Smith, what do you want to show us today?
Hello. Right, I showed you that spinning top last week and I managed to get a video of it. So I'm going to share screen. There's the top. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, going to play. The top is mainly a base tapered, and then it has a stem put down through the middle. It has a small ball turn with a hole through it, but it's been flattened off on two sides so you can hold it. And then that goes over the spindle. The spindle has a hole in it. It has a top knot so that it keeps it in place. And then you thread the string through the hole and you pull it.
Terrific top.
Goes on for 36 seconds.
Now, in this design, the string and the spinning apparatus stay with the top as opposed to
All the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a nice design for that reason.
Yeah. I'll come out of screen share.
Yep.
And I'll just show you the top. There's the top.
It's a solid base, right?
Solid base. It has a small nail, brass nail put in the tip. And then there's the string that goes through.
Right. So when you hold that loose donut there, then away she goes.
That's right. Yeah. So that's why you've got the flat. So you've got something nice to hold and then you spin it from there. But that's a nice shape. The other thing I just want to mention is if anybody's interested in it, last Tuesday evening, I did a demo for the club. I only had 2 days to get organised because the demonstrator wasn't coming. So I made a hand mirror. And I'm just editing the photographs for the write-up. So if you're interested, I'll produce that for you for next week.
Sure. I'd like to know. I'm especially interested in how you held the mirror on. What apparatus did you use for the mirror, the large part?
Just what's on the lathe. A wooden faceplate first time and then go onto your chuck.
Okay.
And there's the back. And that is not a dovetail recess there. That's just decoration.
Hey, Don, I'm interested in how you attach the mirror to that so that when the wood expands and contracts, it doesn't break the mirror.
Right. These mirrors that I use here are actually self-adhesive backed, which is 4 self-adhesive pads, and they tend to give with the wood. Yeah.
And then how much space did you allow around the frame so that, you know, as it moves, the wood doesn't just grab it and crack it?
About a millimeter.
Okay.
Approximately a millimeter.
No,
Don, that appears to be oak. Is that oak?
It is oak, yes. The only trouble is the handle has a split on the end, so I've got to make a new handle, which was a pity. And that's how that fits in.
I sent out your salt bell drawing this morning as well, along with the invite today.
Yeah. So that I'll do that. I'll organize those photographs and have them for next week for you.
All right.
Hey, Don, do you know that our friendly neighborhood Amazon sells little brass tips for tops? I've been making tops like you're doing, and I just put in this little brass. It's a neat one. It's really neat.
What, for spinning on?
The tip of it,
Yeah.
instead of the
this bit
brass
here.
nail you use, they
Yeah.
have a. I don't have one here, but they have a little. You can buy the brass tips to insert. You drill in and just glue them in. So
Yeah. But
I
when you
like
can
your
buy,
I
you
like
buy
your design.
1,000 little nuts for less than £1, what's cheaper?
Okay.
Okay, well, that's it, John. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Don.
I can't top that, but I have an apple that I made. It's a bit of a top, and it's a delicious apple. You can tell by biting into it.
Well, how do you spin it?
Oh,
Well, the other thing was
just
that
take the stem and give it a good spin.
Oh, okay. It's just it's a regular spinner. It doesn't have a built-in
Yeah.
string or anything super
No
clever
trick to
like
it.
that. Yeah. Nice work,
Yeah,
Dave.
the other thing was that I did, after I made the mirror, I had quarter of an hour left before the meeting closed, so I just quickly showed them how to make some light pulls.
What do you mean quickly showed them how to make some light poles? What do you do? What's your technique?
Technique is I drilled the 2 holes before I even start to drill it. Then I have a little jig that goes into the big hole, which is the end that takes the string through, puts it on, turn it, and within 5 minutes you got your light pulls.
So the jig is a little pin jig, right? Sticking out of a chuck.
It's a little pin jig. What I did was I got a piece of 1/4 inch steel dowel, put it in a special chuck that I made of aluminium, and then I drilled a little hole through the middle of the 1/4 inch and put another piece of metal dowel the size of that hole. But before I glued that in, I pointed the 1/4 inch one like this. So it gave like a cutting point. So when you push it onto your lathe, the little one goes through the hole to keep it steady. Then the 1/4 inch one, when that goes in, it bites on the distance between the 2 different holes, the ridge that you get.
The shoulder.
And that then presses against, and you bring your tailstock up, and you just turn the light pulls. I mean, I did 4 of them. 2 more. I did 4 in 15 minutes.
And you're drilling the ends of that on the lathe, right?
No. I
No.
drill the blocks before
Okay.
on a pillar drill.
Right.
Otherwise, you're changing drill, and then you're going to turn it. Whereas you do half a dozen or a dozen 1/4 inch ones. What is it? I think it's a 3/16 drill, and then drill those, then drill the 1/4 inch hole. Then it's just a matter of taking them on and off the lathe.
Right.
Far quicker.
Right. Well, very nice technique, and it's always good to review your procedures because you're a very expert turner there.
Thank you very much, John. Appreciate your comments.
Okay. Ziegler, you're up.
So pardon me, I don't recall if I've shown this to you folks. I did it at our meeting, I think, in February, but I had a black cherry cut down a while ago, and it had kind of a weird cut that the guys that took the trees down made. So I had a fairly shallow piece, but I ended up with this. It's about 8.5 inches by, I think, 2.5. It does have a split in it, unfortunately.
Nice warping.
But it warped, of course, because it was green, somewhat green. So
nicely warped and nice figure too.
Yeah, it does have a nice figure.
Yeah,
it was almost centered. I mean, the It's pretty close.
Yeah.
So that was it.
Well, look at the back of it for a second now. I've seen you do this before. Now, you're not doing that in your laser burner. You're doing that with a pen, aren't you? Like a little pyrography unit.
Yes.
So how
And
fine
you can. What's that?
how fine is the tip on that? I mean,
It's not as fine. I think I'm going to get like a more knife blade. It's rounded and it's probably a millimeter or less.
okay.
And of course, every time I run across the grain, it kind of directs the burner. So I thought about putting it in the laser, but I think it seems weird to use a laser to put something on the bottom because everything else is handmade, and it seems like this ought to be also.
I agree with you, actually. But I mean, I'm impressed with how much detail you get into your signatures using one of those damn pen things, which I find very difficult.
Well, every single one it's every single one's different. Some have been better than others. Usually I'll be going really nicely and all of a sudden it'll catch the grain and mess it up. But maybe that's just I don't know if that adds to it or it just shows you the fact that it's handmade.
Well, it's all of a piece anyway. Any comments in particular? Anything you want to say about Doug's upcoming demo?
Well, it's going to be a small, long twig pot. He showed us his twig pots, I think it was in January, and he agreed to do the demo, and then he had to go away on business. So he graciously, or that's when Angelo picked it up for us. And then Mike Peace is going to do April, and Doug is going to do March. And I think Doug is also going to come to the workshop to show it, do it again for folks and a little bit more hands-on and interaction with people that show up at the workshop.
Oh, good. Okay, that's what I was hoping to hear. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay, Roger.
Attempt to share my screen
Go for
this
it.
morning. I got this working yesterday and it worked just fine, so hopefully it will today as well.
We see your directory.
You do see it? Okay.
Get your directory. See if you can get a picture up. Here we
There you go.
Got it.
Very good. Okay, this was the one that I showed last week, so I won't spend time on it. It's a piece of elm that I did a little texturing on. So
And you're doing that with one of those dental drill things.
that is with it's a Dremel bit. Yeah. So
And on the lathe or on your lap?
on a carving stand.
Okay.
So it's off the lathe on a carving stand. And for whatever reason, it looks like I've got the same problem I had last week, but I got to work yesterday where I could move from one to one. So let me try something else. All right, this was ambrosia maple, another one that I did some texturing with, obviously a different bit, but same technique, do it off the lathe on my carving stand.
How thick is the blank on these things?
That one probably was a good inch when I started.
Okay.
So do you have that walnut one up now?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a little story here. A friend of mine brought in a walnut bowl that was probably close to 15 inches in diameter, and it had all kinds of cracks. And he said, I'm going to pitch this. He said, if you want to play with it and see what you can do with some epoxy or something, have at it. So I ended up playing with it, and then I cut it down to this one, which is about 10 inches in diameter. And there is a crack where both places where I've got that leaf that I burnt in there. And then I want to show you, this is the back of it. And he had these in there when I got it. So he put these puas in there in those cracks. But I guess the primary thing I want to show you guys is what I did with the cracks on the other side where I used my burner and burnt those leaves in there. You guys may have some good ideas on other options to try to disguise cracks, but it worked very well in this case. So I was pleased with the way it came out. And he was surprised that I was able to save it. So
He put in the P-Wiz or you did?
he did on this one.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
he did before he gave it to me.
Does he
Yeah.
want it back now?
What's that?
I said, does he want it back now?
Man, he hasn't asked for it yet, and he's seen it, so he hasn't asked for it. So anyway, that was kind of fun to see what I could do with that. My wife has all kinds of wooden stuff in her kitchen. So a while back, we were talking about what else could go with some of it, so we decided to make a couple mason jars. So these are just a couple of mock mason jars, and I do not have a threading machine, so these are not threaded on there. The first two I made, they're kind of loose fitting, but I made two more and they're tight fitting lids. But anyway, they work great in her kitchen, and my daughter wanted a couple, so she's got two of them as well. But that was kind of fun, and to hollow things out where you could have ample room to see what was going on with the cutter. Here's another little canister that I made, similar effect. She's got this on the kitchen table as well. I just put a couple rings on there and stippled some dots around it, just to add a little character. Not a big deal, but kind of fun. Here's a piece of cherry that I turned a while back. That's probably about 11 inches in diameter and probably 4 to 5 inches tall. That didn't come out too bad. Another cherry bowl that came out of that same log. It finished up pretty nice. Here's a little piece of holly that I got from a friend of mine about a year ago. And as you guys know, holly is pretty plain wood. So I tried my first attempt to do a little biography work and put that little tree in there and a couple more leaves, and it didn't come out too bad. And the knob on there is actually a piece of walnut that I dyed with black leather dye and added to it. And finally, here's just a goblet that I turned a while back that's out of smolted maple. So that's all I've got, John.
Delightful. Nice. Questions, comments, anybody?
What kind of finish are you using?
I typically use an oil-based urethane. Sometimes I use wipe-on poly, but all those are done with one of those two.
Anybody else?
Go Phillies.
What was that?
Somebody said go Phillies, I think.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry. Could you mute me, John?
Yo,
This
Bill.
is Bill Davis.
Yeah, hi, how are you? Sure. Yeah. Skip. Skip from Chesapeake.
Hey guys. I just got a couple little pieces. I do a fair number of burial urns as commission pieces. And I was asked by a fella to make one that I don't think I showed this before, but his father-in-law passed away 3 years ago during COVID and has been in a cardboard box on their kitchen shelf for 3 years. And he asked me what kind of urn would I make for a guy who his claim to fame was he was a hippie at Woodstock and never showered for 10 days. And so I gotta get this thing off my screen because I can't
So
see.
we see you pretty good.
All right.
Yeah, that's good. So how did you apply the colors?
airbrushed. It's airbrush dies.
That was those little mouth blow airbrushes or something off your.
No, it's just a regular Pache, Badger, whatever.
Uh-huh.
I'm not sure. But this was the prototype, and his big one is his future home, as it were, is in the shop in the finishing booth right now. So I was hoping to show you that one instead of just this guy, but
Well, how much bigger is the other one?
200 centimeters.
So
Or
like
200
show your
gram, whatever it
hand
is.
where it is or something, so we
Full
can see.
size, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like 8 by 10, I think, roughly.
Okay. Yeah.
So
So are you threading the lids on?
well, here. So this is another one. This is a smaller one. This is for like a large pet or what they call sharing urns. I don't know if you can tell, but the top is textured a little bit.
Okay.
And that's accomplished by shooting your spray above the object and letting it fall. And that gives it a little texture, so it kind of dries a little bit as it sets, and then you finish it with a satin. But that just gives it a little bit of texture from just the paint. And this one is threaded.
Okay. So what is your hollowing method and what kind of a lathe are you on and all that stuff?
Powermatic 3520C. This was done with, I hollowed it with the Bosch system, the Bosch elbow. But what I guess is to me clever is I don't have a threading jig. If you can see those threads,
Yeah.
I turn those on that 3D printer right there.
Has a plastic, like what's the material? Plastic?
Yeah, it's PVA or PVA, whatever it is.
Okay. So you get yourself a custom sized insert that you can plug into the urn.
I actually sell them. There's a guy in Indiana who buys them by the dozen. But yeah, it's I think it's hard to justify selling an urn for $150 when you got $35 worth of brass. For a metal thread.
So you make those like if I have the custom size, you could make it a custom size?
Yep. I make them right now. I have them 1.5 inches, 2 and 2.5. But it's a parametric design, so you can stretch it and make it bigger or smaller as you want.
And that would be like 8 TPI, or what does it come out as? Some number in there.
Yeah, probably. I mean, there's it threads 3 times over 1/4 inch.
Oh, that would be 12. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's more.
It's a finer thread than 8. Yeah. Okay, it doesn't matter. I'm just curious.
Yeah, they thread together.
So do they come out like as 2 rings that thread together, or a disc in a ring, or what? What do you?
They come out as 2 rings, and one of the nice features about it, doing it this way, is if you're doing a piece where you want the top and bottom grain to match, you put the threaded insert into your base and permanently fix that, and then take some super glue, CA glue, around the plug with the thread. Then you thread it together while it's still wet. You turn it until it's tight, align your grain pattern, and then actually back it off about a 1/4 of a turn, and then let the glue set. And then once it's dry, when you when you firmly engage it, it's tight when the grain lines up. So
you're making and breaking that glue joint, in other words.
well, yeah, you don't let the glue completely harden. You know,
Okay.
when you first insert it. So the glue's still wet when you insert it the first time.
And then you back it out.
Then I back it out just a quarter of a turn because I have found through experience and mistakes
What makes it not stick at that point?
What do you mean?
Doesn't it grab when you back it out a quarter turn?
No, because now what you've done is you've just moved the tenon a little bit. The thread is still engaged where it was.
Okay.
And then once it's dry, you will there's some give to it. I don't know if it just kind of pulls itself down or what, but that's how I do it.
Okay. So you'll sell those threaded that's the pair of threaded inserts, eh?
Yeah.
What do they cost?
$5 a set.
Okay. Everybody write that down.
Yeah. And
is that a laser? Back that up closer to your face a little bit. Yeah, no, we can see it a little better there now.
yeah. So that's my little laser pecker laser. So I'm able to put in a little bit of information. That's my website, the Trees is Art. And then, I like to put the species, and then the volume, because that's important.
And how do you measure the volume?
Rice.
That's what Bert does too. I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if it was a Mike Peace or if it was the guy out in Montana. Anyway, it had a piece. So basically, you make yourself a 5-inch square box, and then I have a plexiglass panel in it that's divided by 1-inch segments. You fill the urn with rice, and then you dump the rice into that container, and then that's 5 cubic inches per inch as it comes up. So that's
Right.
how you gauge your content.
Very cool.
That's what I use. I use plastic beads instead of rice because rice gets wet and kind of gets a little bit spongy after a while. But the plastic HDPE beads never go bad. So that's what I use for qualifying.
Well, I'm sure that's sold at our local Amazon, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, and you did show a cherry bowl.
There's a nice cherry bowl.
This is my cherry bowl.
Nice piece.
With a bead on it. So this is actually for the neighbor that's moving. I just did it yesterday for. They're moving to Myrtle Beach. And they've been great neighbors, and I just wanted to have something to remember us by. So.
Very cool.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks, guys.
Thanks very much, Skip. Good to see you.
Hey, Skip, I got a question.
Yeah.
This is John.
Hey.
With your laser, I recently bought one of those, and I'm trying to figure out how to get it's a cube, and how to get it at the right distance. Do you have some kind of holding mechanism to get the right distance to the wood for different size, thicknesses?
I'll be right back. Give me 5 minutes. I'll explain.
We'll go.
If you got an 8-inch ruler, well, if it's a laser pecker, mine came with an 8-inch ruler that I used to set the laser focal distance from the piece that's being burnt. And so you put an 8-inch, I think it's 8-inch, whatever. It's just a little wooden ruler, and then that gives you the focal point, and then it's perfect every time.
Mine's not a pecker. It's from MLCS. I think it's walnut or something like that, and it's a cube, and you have like an 1.5 inch adjustment. So I have to raise the thing up or down to get the right distance.
look at the specs on it and it'll tell you what the focal point is.
I can tell the focal distance. That's not the problem. Because you just can see that the dot is sharp or not.
Here's Skip's
yeah.
setup.
So John, this is what I made.
Okay.
So you can raise and lower the
And
apparatus.
it raises and lowers. I mean, typically, I think it's 7 or 8 inches, and that's what this is fitted at to the bottom. So I can rest it on the top on a bowl and center.
Okay. All right, that's a good. I got it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I built the jig with parallel arms and then I mount my laser pecker on a camera mount and I put it on the parallel arm so I can adjust it up and down, because some of the things I do are 10 inches tall and some of them are 2 inches tall. So with the parallel arms, I just raise and lower it.
Yeah.
It's the same idea as you got, only with parallel arms. Great idea. I like that idea.
Yeah. So this way, I figure I'm always doing the bottom anyway. So
I don't.
doesn't matter how big the bowl.
I don't have any experience with this, but one of the guys at our club 3D printed a little widget to hold the laser in the tailstock. So then when your piece is still mounted on the lathe, you can just pull the tailstock back and forward to adjust, and it holds it in place. It seemed to work really well.
That's a good idea.
Nice.
Nice idea.
Very clever.
Yeah.
Okay. Mike Brazo,
Okay, I'm going to do a share screen here.
go for it.
You were mentioning pyrography, and there's a bit of a story behind this. At our little church, we do a benevolent offering before communion every month. So I was asked to make a couple of small bowls just for change. And so I had a couple of rough outs of cherry from a camp nearby. Found a Bible verse in Proverbs, and I found a script in Word and drew it out, practiced it with a pencil. But I use a home-built power supply I found from a site called fishcarver.com years ago. I had to modify it to make it work. But my pen is just a bent 16-gauge nichrome wire. Unfortunately, my hands are not very steady anymore, so I don't know if I could even attempt this now. But that's my proudest piece of pyrography.
Nice work.
The test. This was about a dozen years ago.
Nice bowl too.
Yeah, no, it was a nice cherry. We actually thought it was a pin cherry. It wasn't a true black cherry, but the wood is pretty, just the same.
A little yellower sometimes, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I tend to sign my bowls at the bottom and stuff like that with pyrography. It's you got to lock my right hand down to do it, but I think it gives the nicest presentation.
That's pretty clean lettering. That's for sure.
It turned out really well. I had a fellow from the UK on the WOW World of Woodturners site that sent me a note wondering how on earth I did it, because it looks as good as laser. So I actually made 2 of them. It's about a 9 to 10 inch bowl, very shallow, probably about less than 3 inches high.
Nice stuff. Okay, Bowman.
This, by the way, this is my contribution to the cherry theme of the morning. Just a little piece of cherry burl, no funnel here, but bark exclusion or inclusion that went away. What I really want to share is my latest fun in turning captive rings. I turned these and then I said, well, I have all these dies. Let's add some interest. So I dyed each one of these, which became a problem to keep it off the shaft. I discovered that I do not like the Sorby tool I bought for capture ring cutting. So I use carbide occasionally, and I have a diamond negative rake carbide cutter. That has become my technique for freeing these up. I cut my groove like usual, and then I come in each side and poke into the middle. and break them free, and obviously sand them a little bit first, and then I have to, put sandpaper typically on here to sand the holes. But I was having fun. Now, a friend of mine on Facebook, when he saw it, he said, I wonder if you can make each one of those from a different species of wood. I said, oh my gosh. And then I got to thinking about it. And right after this, I'm going out to glue up the block. I have a whole row of blocks that are 2 1/4 square by 1 1/4 inches thick that I'm going to glue together. And then as I cut them out, each one will have a different piece of wood. And I just grab different wood in my shop junk box, and I'm going to have fun with it until one of them breaks, and then I'll be out of rhythm on it. But so that's been my fun. I don't know. What are these useful for? I don't know. They make noise, and my granddaughter thinks they're great fun. She has my first one. This was only my second turning with captive rings. So
Nice
my
stuff.
fun.
Nice stuff indeed. Comments for Jim?
What did you use to dye the colors?
I started out with trans tint dyes, and then I discovered basically trans tint because Toby introduced us to them. And then I discovered Craft Supplies has something called, what is it, Artisan. And theirs is a mixture of shellac and dye. I like theirs better just because of the way I work. But so between the two, depends which colors. My later colors were the Artisans. But yeah, and then I finished this with a handle with boiled linseed oil. This is spalted maple. I have all kinds of spalted maple because I cut down a bunch of trees, and my thick wood is cutoffs from 2 and 3 inch slabs. So
I've used food dyes, and that has worked also.
Do you think they'll fade over? Will they fade over time?
I have one that I've had for a couple of years.
Oh, okay. I used to use black shoe polish for the black, but then I have used a tint dye now.
I like the softness of those colors. I'm impressed with that. They're not garish the way often.
I know. I selected the colors that way originally when I bought the stuff, and they worked out nicely here. So, yeah, this has been a little bit of fun. Fun is all it really amounts to. But I got itchy for turning bowls or stuff again. So after I do the next one, I'll probably get back to chisel one big chunk of wood. So.
Jim, you said you're going to make them out of different woods, and you're going to glue the, let's say, 6 pieces of different wood together.
Yeah.
Then going to drill a hole through them to fix it onto your stem.
No, what I do it is I'll turn that stem that's glued up to a 2-inch blank, but it'll be the different chunks of wood down through. Are you understanding what I mean?
I'm bringing up Chilikian, who's waving one in the air as well. You're going to break the rings, Jim, or you're going to make the spindles as with a lid on it, a removable end.
Nope.
That's what I was trying to get to, because then
No, I'm not explaining it right, apparently. When you look at my shaft after I get to this point, you will see the blocks of wood in the shaft. I will not break them. I will not have to
I'm gonna
let them slide on and off.
I'm going to wrestling spotlights again. I'm going to get it back on you. I had Chilikian up because he was waving the ball and stick too.
Oh, I know. I'm sorry.
Your background is a real distraction here. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'll solve that. I'll solve that quick. I have the same picture on here.
All right.
So let me go back one.
These rings are freed from the piece of spalted maple. They're all from the one piece of wood, right? Or
they
not?
are.
This one is, and then I dyed it. No, these rings were made from this. So the next time, watch my hair. The next time, say this black one is walnut. So you'll see from I used a spalted maple handle. Sorry.
Bless you.
Yeah, thank you. That's the walnut. I mentioned walnut and the juggalo got me. It'll be a block of walnut. It's 1.25 inches thick because I cut 3/4 of an inch between each ring, and then I leave the ring space 1/2 inch. So you'll see blocks of walnut, then say Purple Heart might be the red one, and then I actually put a spalted maple one in the middle. You know, I go down through, so they'll all be native woods, but glued together on a bar. Like
So how do you fix that on the stem, Jim?
I'm
This
sorry?
is what I'm trying to get to, because at the moment, I'm only envisioning you getting a block of wood that you've glued all these pieces together. You drill a hole to put your maple stem on, and then you're going to turn them into beads. No?
I do not know. The block of wood will replace this spalted maple shaft so that it will I will turn the captive rings on that shaft. I guess I'll just have to make sure I do it and get it here
You're going
next
to have
week.
to do it. In other words, you're going to glue up the shaft along with the blocks of wood and then turn it all that way from the glued up blank.
I'm going to do like I just did with this one, only the shaft will be multiple blocks of wood glued together.
Right.
Now, the trick I had to remember and think about was I need to glue face grain to face grain. You know, I couldn't turn one end grain or it wouldn't stay, it would break. So, yeah, I'll do it. Don, I'm sorry I'm not able to explain it better.
Yeah, that just looks, that's, to me at the moment, it looks like you're going to have to stick one at either end back onto the piece after you put the shaft.
Well, he's going to figure it out and bring it back, and then we can see what he actually does.
Yeah. It'd be nice to know, Jim.
Hey, I will try, Don.
Thank you.
I'll always be glad to show you what I'm stumbling around with. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Don.
I wouldn't mind seeing the homemade tools people have made the free captured rings too. I know I've got 2 or 3. And I haven't tried the diamond point carbide tool, but I will next time I want to make a captive ring and see how that works too. So
yeah,
you can actually make a captive ring with a skew.
Yeah, I'd do that too. And I made a little hook that gets in there and lots of different.
I tell you, the best one though is for me was this diamond and negative rake diamond tool. That
So we're going to have a look for one of those. And on that note, we'll see you all next week. Thank you very much.
Wood shop. Thank God for wood.